I'm Raphael Hyde, and today we have Luke with us. So thank you so much, Luke, for joining.
Pleasure to be here.
I'm going to do an intro, and then we'll jump right into it. So, Luke, I'm going to butcher your last name, so I'm going to have you say it.
It's a Gniwecki.
Gniwecki, okay. Awesome. Thank you. I feel like I've been trying to figure that out, but I'd rather just get it from the source. So Luke has been in the Web3 space for quite a few years now. He has been kind of exploring the metaverse and technology and blockchain and crypto for about 10 years. As the founder of Metaverski, a Web3 and metaverse product consultancy. So he's worked across a lot of different use cases, business models, and I'm really excited to kind of tap into that today. A little bit more about Luke's background, some of the projects and companies he's worked with. And so, yeah, feel free to look him up on Twitter and LinkedIn to get some more information. With all that being said, Luke, I'm going to stop the screen share and we can get into it. So Luke, where are you calling in from today?
So I'm calling from the UK and from the south of England, a town called Bournemouth, which is at the seaside in Dorset. My company is based in London, which is a 2-hour train drive, but I'm very much in London every week working. So the weather is average today, but we're looking forward to the summertime.
Yeah. Nice. And so let's rewind the clock a bit. So 10 years ago, you got exposed to Web3. Tell us what happened and how you got into it.
It's an interesting story. By the way, it's a pleasure to be here and have an opportunity to talk to all of you. I'm really excited. I was working at a software development agency building apps and software solutions, back-end, front-end, so managing products for the likes of American Red Cross, building a blood donation app for the American Red Cross, which some of you might have used, or hurricane app for alerting people about hazards there. And we had an internal innovation team kind of group, which I was leading and exploring new technologies. I had heard about blockchain and Bitcoin before, but never really kind of got into it too much. It was very much about finance and making money. So we started exploring Ethereum and obviously set up crypto wallets. And the thing that clicked with me was when I downloaded the first crypto wallet app, which was Jax at that time. And in order to just get in and set up, you just click create wallet. And from the UX point of view, you're in. You just you have this wallet there. You can interact with the blockchain and you can interact with the applications. And I started digging into it as how actually blockchain works, how transactions are added, and how the consensus is achieved, which is this rabbit hole, which I haven't left. I'm still in it, and that's exciting. But what's really intriguing to me is that you could actually trigger functions of an application or manage applications or products by sending a transaction. And that transaction that you send actually sends money in it. So the code can contain money, which is this new paradigm in my head. And since then, it was this rabbit hole and reading and joining crypto startups. And yeah, that's how it started in short. Yeah.
That's really cool. And so when you first got exposed into it, I know now your focus is, I believe, more metaverse focused.
Yes.
What was the transition from blockchain technology to the metaverse is really where I want to be?
Yes. So I started working for a company called Kudo Ventures, which is building a decentralized cloud computing platform, where we started building a mining platform first to aggregate world's unused computing power. And then we launched tokens and the whole ecosystem. And now the company are developing the layer 1 blockchain for NFTs and for computations as well. Very much kind of this decentralized Google Cloud, if you think about, but in a different way, in a more Web3 way. And then before that, I was always into gaming when I was a kind of a kid and teenager, playing games and really like that. So, and I got into tech. Gaming was always a thing that was staying with me in my after hours. So the metaverse, this really kicks in last year when I joined Boson Protocol. So I joined Boson Protocol from another blockchain research and development company called Enchain in London, which was very much an enterprise blockchain tech, working with financial institutions and banks, which was great. But obviously, my passion is more about consumer and gaming and that area. So working at Boson Protocol, which is a blockchain protocol for decentralized commerce, we identified this niche, which is this connection, those interactive virtual worlds, the 3D internet, as some people say, or the next evolution of the internet, and started building metaverse products. And that was March, April, which is very much 6 months before Mark Zuckerberg announced the rebrand to Meta. And what we did at Boson Protocol, in order to demonstrate how the blockchain protocol works, which is a peer-to-peer commerce, so you could build your decentralized Gumtree, decentralized Etsy, decentralized eBay, or decentralized Amazon using the protocol, and sell NFTs as physical products, which is an interesting concept. So you can peg an NFT to a physical item like a trainer, sneaker, or anything, or any physical product. And when I was at Boson, then we decided to build this metaverse platform to demonstrate how the protocol works to bring users and developers onto the network. And since then, before October, it was very hard to explain what the metaverse was. But after October, everyone is just like, hey, we want to work with you. And this metaverse really kicked it off. And you could see the amount of investment, how every company wants to be a metaverse company. So yeah, that was an interesting combination of my passion for gaming, technology, and like consumer user and mass consumer stuff.
That's really awesome. And when you talk about some of those like product applications where you can peg an NFT to the physical product, which products have you known, or maybe were the brands that you worked with that seem to have the most traction?
Yeah, so it very much, it's in terms of traction, most of the brands we were working with were looking for sort of PR, innovation, marketing, publicity, like hey. And some of the brands we worked with include Tommy Hilfiger, who have launched a virtual store of the physical products sold as NFTs. And those NFTs are on Boson Protocol, which is an ERC, an Ethereum, a protocol based on Ethereum, which you can build your own apps and dApps. So Tommy Hilfiger, for instance, selling physical, unique items. In terms of traction, there are other digital fashion companies, digi-fashion companies like DressX, and some of the web3 companies you may have not heard about. There are also some trainer companies, second biggest trainer company in the world, which I probably can't release the name unless they launched with them already, because I'm not with both for the last 3 weeks. But those brands are looking into, what we found is that the majority of the brands are getting excited about the metaverse, but they don't know what to do with it. And of course, they have their products they want to sell, so they want to experiment with those in those metaverse experiences. But we wanted to offer much more than just a selling experience, because it would be just boring if you land as your avatar and go and buy a product. So we ended up building little mini games for them. In order to unlock a purchase of a unique NFT, you have to complete like a race or a mini game, collect some POAPs, which are basically NFTs on XDAI chain, and making a very much more Web3 native way. So those gamified experiences were all done in Decentraland, on our own land, which we purchased from Decentraland for $700,000 in the form of NFTs. There were like 144 NFTs in total, I think we bought. And on top of that, we build our experience, and we could bring our own brands and make our own money. Nothing to do with Decentraland at all. We own our land, and we just build our shops, build our games, and have a product, for example.
Wow. So I know we have some awesome slides that you put together. Is this a good time to transition to that? Because I feel like we're getting into some of the interworkings of the models. Do you want to share your screen, or should I share my screen?
Yeah, I can share my screen. That's great.
Awesome. I love where we're headed here, but I love that you put some time into some visuals. I think that's going to kind of anchor some of this for us.
Brilliant. Should I start from slide 6 then?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Awesome. I wanted to talk about the sort of the migration from the platform to ownership economy, and most of you are very well versed within Web2 because you've been building that in Web3 as well, having worked in so far in some of the work that Raphael has been doing. As you know, in Web2 we have this the read and write version of the internet, where we have interactive and dynamic websites, applications, dynamic shareable content that can be requested on demand. And of course, thanks to cloud computing, which Web2 is driven mainly, you can have that content on the fly when you use a mobile phone, outdoors, etc. And obviously, Google is playing a huge role in that. And thanks for that, which is brilliant. What we're seeing now is a move in the context of Web3, a move from the read and write to read, write, and own. where users can truly own content and assets in the form of tokens or NFTs, and they can actively govern those networks and those products and platforms, which is something that wasn't possible before. And that takes us to this concept of the ownership economy. And I wanted to define it a little bit more because it's not really as common and not many people use it, but it's becoming more and more popular. And at the moment, this is what basically gets me out of bed every day, which is this ability by users to own the platforms, services, products they use. And the users are rewarded with tokens for using that platform. That reward is often proportional to the usage or value driven. So for example, you could be an early adopter of a network. Let's just say a Web3 version, Web3 Facebook or Web3 social media. And any user that you invite gives you more token rewards. And the more users you invite, when the network effect kicks in, the more, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear me.
You're good.
Just there were some sounds there or questions. So the more users you invite to the network, the value of the network effects kick in, and therefore you have more. The value of your token increases, and then you can monetize that or keep it. Then the metaverse, which I explained in high level, but most of you have heard of this. My mental model for the metaverse is the next technology platform, which is an evolution of the mobile internet. It isn't a VR headset. It isn't a virtual world. It's this concept of constantly persistent virtual experiences, either in 3D or 2D, that people can interact with and socialize, spend time, go to work, conduct commercial exchange, and so on. And of course, Web3, which is the decentralized internet, where you have this trustless and permissionless network, and you can build products and applications with Web3 technology. And what I like to call this intersection, this is what most of my clients who I'm working with and projects are within this spectrum, which is the intersection between the metaverse, the Web3, which enables the open metaverse, which is not closed gaming platforms or like Roblox or even Fortnite, but more of the open metaverses such as Decentraland, which are truly decentralized, Sandbox, that is not as decentralized but has decentralization on the roadmap, and in the future you can own virtual land, for instance. And then the ownership economy, which is this notion that creators can truly own the creations, sell them to their fans, and those fans can invest in the creator, and users can truly own platforms and products and services in form of token ownership or NFT ownership. Since we are here talking about the UX, and this is very much a Web3 UX group, and this is a Web3 UX fireside chat, I wanted to talk about how the value accrues in a different way between Web2 and Web3. And this is what's also very interesting about Web3, is that in terms of how user-facing it is, more than ever, Web3 is putting users, empowering users and how they interact with the platforms, and benefits and incentivizes them. What that means that in Web2, the users are, and the network that users are aligned or organized around centralizes, accrues all the value inside, which means every content we create, everything we do is at the benefit of that network, and that network, or platform, sorry, decides what to do with that. The great example are social media networks, for instance. If I want to leave my Twitter account today, or any LinkedIn, for instance, and I've got few friends on LinkedIn and people, I can't just take all of my LinkedIn connections and go to another platform. I have invited or accepted many invites to my LinkedIn account, and I have never been incentivized for helping grow my network or helping grow the platform, which then LinkedIn can do more advertising, for example. And the list goes on, and the platform locks you up, and it's not worth for you to leave the platform to a better product, like maybe more user-friendly LinkedIn, because I know I've got all my few thousand connections there, and I don't want to lose that. Also, as a user that has spent many hours on LinkedIn messaging other people and actually creating content for that platform, I haven't got any voting rights or influence on the actual development of the platform. And and Web2 platforms are also unfriendly for developers, and some are more friendly than others. But we know the story, for example, of Facebook, how they what they did for Zynga, where they were big about Facebook gaming until they realized that most people who play Farmville don't really want to spend time on clicking on ads, and that was affecting the bottom line. So they decided to can the Facebook gaming, and there was no Farmville anymore. But if you switch that to a Web3 network, we have the value accrual. It happens on the edges of that network, which means users are organized around the network in the form of token ownership, which is basically a stake. Anyone can join the network at any time they want, and anyone can leave that network. So I can buy those tokens, I can sell those tokens, and I can truly own my inventory. For example, if you own your NFTs, it's up to you which NFT marketplace you go to. And that gives a lot of power to users, which means the platforms and products in Web3, they need to think about what users want really and offer the best value. And OpenSea will compete with Rarible to ensure that people come and sell their NFTs there. So therefore, they may want to incentivize those users. And the list goes on. It's very easy to switch from one platform to another. You have built-in incentives thanks to crypto economics. And those incentives could be airdrops if you join a network very early. For example, I joined the Audius network, which is a decentralized Spotify. I helped create some content for them as well very early on. And then when the network grew, and they issued an airdrop to everyone who was an early adopter. And I had a decision to sell some of my tokens, or because I believe in the future growth of that network, stick to it. So then you have other incentive mechanisms where you can stake your tokens and get even more rewards in order to stay and keep your tokens. And in other words, this upside for growing the network is, again, empowering the users and brings back the value to the users. User own identity, because we use crypto wallets to sign your Ethereum account is what holds your identity, your NFTs and everything else. You truly own that inventory, and it's up to you what you do with it. No one can take it away from you. And what's really fascinating for me, particularly in terms of building products, is that there's this shared sense of identity, collaboration. Those networks are so positive. People want to help each other. If someone doesn't like what's happening, they can leave the network, sell their tokens. But you probably are in lots of different Discord servers. You can see the vibe in this space. So in summary, the value accrual at the edges of the network benefits users from the user point of view. And I think that has a power that has not really been harnessed yet by the Web3 products. And we're yet to see new products, new business models, which utilize that to the greatest extent. And some examples, this is a source from the Variant Fund report, which I can send some links, so you can just Google that. The ownership economy ecosystem is growing, and we've got different types of categories of networks. We've got people who collaborate together on buying art collaboratively. PleaserDAO, for instance, buys crypto art. We have decentralized finance protocols, which are about making even more money and utilizing your assets and growing those yields and making more returns on your coins. But there are things like media, gaming, voting platforms, lots of different categories. This list is not exhaustive. There's more than that. I'm particularly interested in the NFT tools and social community and metaverse gaming, which I think, if you think about the 3.2 billion gamers around the world and 1.7 billion PC gamers alone who can just go and use those crypto wallets, this is going to be an interesting transition from Web2 gaming world to Web3 gaming as well. A little bit more on the differences between the Web2 and Web3 applications in the context of what's user facing. So when you build experiences and UX and of course building a smooth, simple UX that delivers value to users and it's easy to use the product or service, whether it's a developer experience or it's an end user experience. In Web2, we have user, we have the browser. And of course, we have got the front end, which then talks to the back end, and then we've got the database. Most of that is usually hosted on AWS or Google Cloud or any other cloud provider, which is a typical Web2 obviously simplified here architecture. With Web3, we have the addition of the crypto wallet, which is a signing mechanism for transactions. Now, it comes with some challenges there because if you think about users now are used to using emails, it's very easy for them to set up an account and email. In Web3, you don't often have emails, and you know that for sure. But the question is here, we are actually complicating the experience here for users. We've been saying to everyone, don't ever write down your password on a piece of paper. But yet, when you set up a crypto wallet, the first thing you do, you have to write down your 12 or 24 keywords for the private key, the memorable words. And that poses some challenges, how we manage that, how we build the UX and products that can onboard the next billion of users and streamline that experience. And in terms of the other things that are new here is we have the user that and then we have got the browser. Either it could be the browser can have either an extension in form of a MetaMask, or you can use your mobile phone and just scan a QR code and sign a transaction. I particularly like using wallets such as a Rainbow Wallet to just sign transactions on my mobile phone. For some reason, I feel much more secure using my mobile phone as a secure enclave rather than using my desktop extension. But it's and then you have the front end that talks to the blockchain on which you have smart contracts, which are basically applications which define the logic of a protocol or of the dApp that you want to use. And what's new here as well is you could truly decentralize the front end of the application. So instead of hosting your front end on a Google Cloud platform, you could decentralize that and host it on an IPFS decentralized storage, off-chain decentralized storage. And what's new here is even if the application stops being supported by the team goes down or doesn't work on it anymore, if that front end is decentralized, it still works and the application can continue to work. Another new thing for building Web3 applications is that you can only write new data to the blockchain, which is you cannot update it. For that reason, you've got Uniswap v2, Uniswap v3, which means you could still use the legacy applications if you want to, and you have to move to the new version of the protocol or the dApp to use the latest version. There's no way to update the logic of encoded within the smart contract as well. And here on this slide, I wanted to talk about the Web 2 to Web 3 and the open metaverse transition, and how I see and what are the key dimensions of each of those. So within Web 2, we didn't have any true ownership of digital assets. And in social network, if you create content, it's the content that you really submit to Twitter or Facebook. They own this, for instance. In Web 3, we have new digital native assets, so you can own videos, you can own images, but there will be new types of digital native assets, such as experiences that you can own and royalties that you could own. People fractionalize royalties on music, and you can actually buy a fraction of the royalties as an NFT. Those are the projects that are doing this. How that transfers to the open metaverse, which is this intersection between Web3 and the open gaming world, is you could build new types of digital experiences. And one of them is, for example, Boson Portal, where we build the shops and virtual commerce to bring brands to sell their products. Again, Web 2 had this closed economy, usually locked by the platform. And in Web 3, we have open decentralized economies, which then, if you think about the millions of gamers moving into the open metaverse, because those games will be much more engaging and enable the economy to thrive. So the time you spend the time you spend in the game can be monetized and rewarded for something. That could help create this new type of open metaverse economy, which by using Web3 and crypto can help you generate some real income and revenue by just playing the game, if that's important to you, because not all gamers in the world really want to make money. And the last one is the shift from the attention economy to the ownership economy, which is this thing that I'm very much excited about. Many people say that the original sin of the internet was this advertising-based business model, yet very lucrative, of course, and a lot of people have built serious businesses on that, including Google, of course, with the Google ad platform. But in Web3, advertising isn't really a dominant way to create business models, because you've got those built-in incentives users are incentivized for their contributions. Yes, there is room for advertising, but it won't be as dominant, and it won't be the only way to monetize content creation, and for example, to make, as in Web2, you had to have some banner ads on the website in order to pay the content writers and creators, for example, as a website, as a news website. So in Web3, we've got this notion of the ownership, where advertising isn't really going to play such a huge role as it has till now. We're yet to see how the current Web2 ad model will work in Web3. Yes, people want to see ads and promotional materials, but it won't be as important. And with all that, and thinking about the metaverse, this true digital ownership is going to be this key driver of user behaviors, how people consume the internet, how people use the internet, how people exchange value, how people transfer value to others and between their own accounts or avatars or identities. And that will have an impact on the tech and products that people build, or we build, or you build as well. So just very quickly on the key dimensions of the open metaverse. And by the way, this is my avatar in Boson Portal, going through those virtual shops. And you can actually go to bosonportal.io and you can jump into Decentraland right now without having an account, or just connect your wallet and see what products are listed there. This form of collective ownership is very powerful. Again, if you own virtual land in Decentraland, you can vote on the future of the platform. So if there is a new major feature to be added, then there's a governance vote and people vote with their land NFTs. Each land NFT gives you a voting power. The more land you have, the more voting power you have, and therefore the result, the vote is then ends within the time. It has some challenges because, especially when building products, it's not centralized, which means it takes time to push new features through it, and it could be political at times. But still, to many people, it's much a better choice than being at the mercy of a big platform. If you think about Boson has spent $750,000 altogether on buying that land. They need to be sure that there's no way that at this point in time, like Decentraland can close them and lock them down and say, from tomorrow, you cannot sell products in Decentraland. By making that investment, and they know it's an NFT and a decentralized network, they have they've got their own coin as well. You know that there won't be any changes that one person can make in a room, or in a room in a boardroom, especially. Interoperable virtual worlds is something that's being still worked on. We haven't got the interoperability yet. So moving your avatar from Decentraland to Sandbox or some other virtual worlds is still a challenge. Yet we have a number of projects that are working on converting your avatar into a voxel-based avatar for Sandbox. It's not just visuals that you have to deal with when you move assets from one world to another, as each world in 3D has different scale, and you have to adapt that scale accordingly. So there are some challenges to be solved for the avatar asset migration, which are yet to solve, and they're big problems at the moment. Free value that you can move, because everyone uses crypto wallets at the same standard. You can exchange tokens, exchange NFTs in Decentraland and Sandbox. You truly own your data in the form of your Ethereum account ownership. And then with all of that, I wanted to end with this slide, which is maybe we can have a discussion if you have any questions. There are lots of challenges in Web3, and I like to think about this, that people who work in UX and UX designers, UX, UI, interaction designers, I think in order to make Web3 mainstream and bring more Web2 companies to build some sort of Web3 products, I don't necessarily mean that every single Web2 business needs to have a decentralized network and then hand the entire ownership to all the users. But even doing a little bit of that could help the users and make the network, make the user bring like a lot of new types of users. But for that to work and to bring mass users, we need to have a better user experience. Most Web3 products are technically complex. Earlier on, they were built by developers or engineers very much. And if any of you had a crypto exchange account in 2016 or 17, such as Bittrex or any of the major exchanges now, you probably remember it was just a table, clunky UX, and very difficult to use. Coinbase was one of the ones that really had a very good UX, and that's why they brought a lot of users there, yet they charged the biggest, highest amount of fees. And then setting up wallets, again, I mentioned that earlier, managing your private keys. How do I set up a wallet? What is a wallet? How does that work? There's a lot of challenges in terms of user onboarding there. And some people have solutions where you just don't have to deal with this crypto stuff. You just can buy crypto, buy NFTs by paying in dollars. But again, how do we communicate to users? How do we let them know that they're actually much more empowered than they were in the Web 2 by owning their own inventory, thanks to wallets. KYC requirements, compliance is still, many countries need to require KYC, which then adds friction to the process. How do we deal with that? How users can understand transactions that they're signing. MetaMask have recently introduced those changes, which is much easier to read transactions and which transactions you sign. Before that, it would just be kind of a code-looking blob of data, and users were falling for scams, thinking they're submitting a transaction to a smart contract. In fact, they were giving ownership of their wallet to someone else, and people were losing millions of dollars. We don't want to hear those news, and people always try to be scamming others. As still, even in Web 2, we have email scammers and phishing attacks, but all those challenges have not been solved, and that's not going to help us bring millions of users. And the last one I wanted to talk about is a very important one, is the protocol first, UX second. So when you, because the protocol decisions are made very early on, because you have to write the smart contracts, you have to define the logic, how the protocol will work, and before you can deploy it onto the blockchain. People don't really think about how will people end up building applications on top of those protocols. And when I said in this slide very quickly, is you have this protocol at the center, which is this set of rules and smart contracts you can use. And you as a builder, application builder, entrepreneur, can build any UI you want on top of that and interact with the protocol and build your own business around that protocol. So the question here is, how can we make a very slick, smooth UX if the protocol decisions are made up front and they're very difficult to change? And with that leaves us with a big challenge here, which means we have to be very smart how we do things, do a lot of user testing, discovery, understand how users interact with those protocols. You could change a protocol if you engage in a governance vote and the vote goes through, but it's a long process and it's not as easy. And that protocol needs to be decentralized first, for sure. So with this protocol first, UX decisions as second, is one of the sort of key challenges I see in building a slick UX for users. Yet I believe that we can solve those challenges. So, yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk to today. Thank you very much for having me. I wonder if anyone has any questions or have a discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much, Luke. That was so, I loved the comparison between the Web 2 model and the Web 3 model, and showing how the value creation gets pushed to the edges, and how you don't have to like necessarily commit to a network or to its value prop. You can taste it and you can participate at the speed or the depth that makes sense for you. And I really love your last point about kind of the UX opportunities with the protocol design, and how in a lot of ways that creates these hard edges that we have to design around. Because I think a lot of people on the call can probably relate to the fact that, we might work on a product where the API was designed to do a thing. Then all of a sudden we need to put a UI on top of it. And it's like, oh, well, like, can we give feedback to the user? Well, we can't, because the API won't allow it. And so we're having to work within the confines of these kind of unrealistic expectations to create a good user experience. But yet, I think what you're talking about is, I think if UX and maybe product definition is involved earlier on, so when those contract decisions are made, we can hopefully keep an eye out for those kind of mistakes so they don't happen.
And there's a big question is how this walled garden will, like, we don't want another walled garden. And it's not just Facebook. There's also Fortnite, Epic Games, where you've got 3.2 billion revenue generated by 5% of users who buy virtual skins and items every year. and millions of users playing the game every day. We've got Roblox as well, but those guys are pretty much closed gardens now, and they talk about the metaverse, but they're not the open metaverse. So when I say the open metaverse, are the ones who have some sort of either decentralization on the roadmap or are based on like NFTs and fully decentralized tech. So Decentraland is probably the most decentralized metaverse. It has its downsides, but it's not a walled garden. If Facebook Metaverse had similar approach, then I wouldn't worry about Facebook. Are they compatible with that? I don't think so, unless they make some significant changes to the way they work and their advertising-based business model.
I want to build on that, Luke, because earlier you talked about some of the political friction inside of the metaverse. Can you talk about that a little bit? Maybe you can share us an example of what kind of political friction you're talking about?
Yeah, I can give an example that I've experienced personally. So when we were launching Boson Portal, and we just had 2 days to launch it was a massive event in London. It was a virtual event in our virtual space. And I had to, there was this Decentraland map, and I had to add, just like on Google Maps, you can add your business to Google Maps, and it'll pinpoint and explain what the business is. We wanted people to, on Decentraland map, to see it says Boson Portal by Boson Protocol. Now, in order to have like your title or location pinned on the map, you need to submit a governance vote. And in order to do that, you have to issue a proposal. So you go to this tool called Snapshot, you sign in with your wallet, and you create a proposal saying, hey, I'd like to add this to the map. And then I have to ask people to vote on it. And if the voting threshold was, I think, was 500,000 voting power, which is VP, and each NFT you own in Decentraland gives you a certain amount of VP. But I didn't, well, long story short is, I didn't get enough votes. I was short of 200, like I think 25,000 votes just to get my portal on the map before the event, so people can find it easily. And again, I heard some people saying, "Oh, we don't know Boson Protocol too much. We haven't worked with them in Decentraland because we were quite new for Decentraland." So that caused a bit of a political discussion, and I had to go to Discord groups and sort of massage some of the stuff and explain. As opposed to a centralized, if it was my own, let's say, little mini game I've created in Roblox, I can decide exactly like to be shown on the map with the title. So this is just an example, and there's more than that. If we talk about DAOs and voting on the future of the protocol, and some challenges are related to the amount of tokens held by users, and the more tokens you have, the more voting power you have, and that would mean if someone has a huge amount of token, like a VC or a big investor, they can have a lot of power. The only thing is you don't know them because Web3 is very anonymous. You just have a wallet address, so you don't know who they are. So that could get very political as well.
Gotcha. Thanks for sharing that. Thank you so much, Luke. This has been awesome. We got a lot of your time. We asked a lot of great questions. I feel like I have a lot of clarity now. So thank you so much, and maybe one day we'll have you back.
Amazing. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Have a great day, everyone, and speak to you soon.